You are listening to the In Between Sales Calls podcast with Derek Shebby, episode 60. Welcome, everyone. For those of you who are in a constant price war, those of you in the commodity industry, those of you that are telling your boss and your friends, oh man, it's always coming down to price, this episode's for you. You know, I've been hearing a lot of that lately. Always comes down to price, Derek. That's what it is. You know, and just recently I did a sales training for a whole team, and this is a team in the Midwest. There's about 20 sales reps, managers on the call. And I went through this whole session on basically how to sell with profit and how to get more value out of what you're selling and to get people more interested in what you sell. So it doesn't come down to price, because I came from the manufacturing industry, coming from a Xerox company, and so we were selling something where there was 15 competitors, and there was always someone out there less expensive than you, and it just wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. So we had to have certain things that we did to make sure we could win those competitive sales cycles, especially the ones where we were the most expensive. So I did this training. I went through these 4 best practices and things you got to make sure you're doing so you can sell better. And I'll never forget the end of this training. The president comes on. I go around the room and I get takeaways from everybody. Everyone's like, "This is great. This is great. This helps me. I haven't really thought about this in the past." Really good stuff. And I go to the president for the final takeaways, and I'm thinking it's probably going to be more of the same. And the president says, "Hey, I really enjoyed this training, everybody. This was great. But we all know that the way that we separate ourselves in this industry is about the other services that we're adding in. So all the products are the same, everybody. They're all the same. It doesn't really matter which one you look at. All these 15 competitors, they're the same. It's the other services that we have that separate us." And I'm hearing this and I'm just cringing. And I can't explain how frustrated I was hearing that. But I'll try to explain that today, because you might be feeling that same way. You might be feeling, you know what? Yeah, we're all the same, right? And it's the reality is it's really not the case. After that training, I had a session with my boot camp, and this was the next day. And at the end of the boot camp session, one of the people that was in it said to me, "Derek, can we just pause for a second and let's just be honest here? I mean, there really aren't any other differences, out there, right? I mean, all the products are the same. I mean, they're pretty much the same apart from just the support and the service after the sale. Isn't that really the difference, Derek? Can't we just be honest?" And here again, I'm hearing it the next day. And it's real. I mean, people talk about this. You're probably talking about this. You probably say, you're the difference. People should go with you. People buy from you because you're the difference. And people buy from your company because your company has the best service. The whole Nordstrom's idea, right? The best service in the industry. All of these things, and it absolutely drives me crazy. Now, I'm going to take you back to Xerox. I sold Xerox for 17 years and helped develop our teams in California to become the largest mega dealer in the nation for Xerox, all of the major markets in California. And something that you need to know about us is we were the most expensive vendor by far. In fact, out of 15 different vendors, and this is last 17 years, we were the most expensive. I mean, we could never say we won't be the cheapest in this sale. I mean, we could never say we're not going to be the cheapest company that you look at. We always had to say something different because we were the most expensive, guaranteed. So what I trained our salespeople to say was, "Look, we will be the most expensive vendor that you look at, but it's my job to show you why you can't afford to use anyone but us." I mean, that's so important to say. But how can you say that when you have people that are out there going, "Oh, we're all the same," right? We're all the same. I mean, I would do demos with people. I'd bring them in and I'd do a demo with them and I'd say, "Listen, I'm not going to show you all the reasons why we're similar to the rest of the vendors that you're looking at. I'm just going to show you why companies choose us and our product. I'm just going to show you that. And again, why you can't afford to use anyone but us. Well, what happens if you don't say this? What happens if you don't talk about the product? What happens if you just say, you know what? They're all the same. We're different because of these sort of things. But guess what? Every other vendor is saying they're different because of the same things. Well, what happens if you don't say something about the product? If you don't say, like I said, why it's my job to show you why you can't afford to use anyone but us. Why I brought up the fact that it's so critical that you think about the product and why it's better. If you don't talk about the product, if you just slide it under the rug and say, just like everybody else, it's the same thing, what do you think you're implying to the customer? What do you think? Well, you probably got it. If you're answering out in your car or wherever you are right now, you're saying there isn't a difference. You're literally saying, yep, you heard it. We're all the same. It's normal, right? This is what everyone's saying. So basically what happens is the customer's got to start looking at, well, what is the difference then? And where do you think they're going to go? They're going to look to your price, right? We had this thing within Xerox that I absolutely loved because I felt like it was a differentiator. And let me explain it to you. Because there's 15 vendors in the industry, and I was the only one talking about this, or at least our company was, because I made sure we were all machines at it. And this is why we continued to grow like crazy, selling the most expensive product in California, in the major markets, and winning and growing like crazy. But this is one of the things I said. There was a difference specifically in our product. And I believed this to my core. And I saw it, and I looked at it. And I checked the other vendors out. And one of these differences was this internal components that the Xerox had. And it's called Smart Kits. So if you guys happen to be a Xerox sales company out there, make sure you search it up, Smart Kits, because it is a huge differentiator. And we can make sure you DM me later on, and I'll tell you all the differences why. But this feature, I made sure every single one of our sales force understood why it made us special, why it made us different, and why any company that would choose Xerox is choosing Xerox for this reason. You need to find out what those reasons are, because the success habit today for you is to sell the product before you sell the add-ons. So what do I mean by that? Sell the product before you sell the add-ons. That's the success habit. Well, when I mean add-ons, what could be an add-on? What could be an add-on to the product? Well, it could be your service that your company is providing. It could be your service level agreements, how fast you're able, your response times, and different things like that. Those could all be a part of it. It could be how many parts and components your technicians carry with you when they go out there. Who knows? Whatever it could be. It could be all these things. It could be your company involvement in the community. It could be how long your company's been around, right? Those could be all reasons. I would consider all those things add-ons. Or it could be another service that you sell with your product. You have this product right here, but you have this separate service that you sell with your product. And that's why you should go with us, because we have that service. The other thing that you could be saying, which you probably do right now more than you should, is the add-on, that extra special reason why they should go with you, with your product, is because they get you. Well, listen, these are all add-ons. They're all separate to the product, right? And everyone else, which you don't realize, everyone else leads with those same things. Everyone else. They don't lead with the product. And what happens when they don't sell the product, the actual product, the thing that the customer is looking to buy, the reason why there's a sales cycle going on right now, if they don't have a reason, if they don't see the difference in the product, then it's going to come down to price. That's got to be stuck in your mind. Are you selling the product? If you're not, you are dooming your sales cycles to being about price forever. That's what happens. I mean, just consider Amazon. Let's just think about you. Just think about you as a consumer, right? Someone who's going out and buying stuff every single day. When you have to buy something on Amazon, you look on Amazon, right? We start looking at all of these different things to help us make a decision, right? We start comparing. And I know I've talked in a podcast about the power of comparisons and how you need to be thinking about comparisons. But let's just think about you when you buy something on Amazon. Where's the first thing that you go when you get on Amazon? Typically, you look at the number of 5 stars. That's just the way it is. You look at the number of 5 stars because that represents the product. It represents what people think about the product, right? And what do we assume about the product if it's not getting 5 stars? What do you think? Well, maybe there's something wrong with the product. Maybe people were unsatisfied with the product to say, yeah, I don't give this thing 5 stars. This thing doesn't deserve 5 stars. They start giving it 1 star or 2 stars or whatever. And the 5-star average drops. I mean, what makes it really challenging on Amazon to buy is when everything's got almost 5 stars. I mean, you look at it and say, hey, these things, everyone's got good reviews. But I guess that's a good thing, right? Because if it's a good thing, then you know that you can't go wrong. You know, whatever you end up choosing, it's probably going to be good. And that's good. That's great. You know, because then you can decide off of price. Well, we as consumers, we're always trying to figure out which product is better. And without a reason why the product is different, if we can't figure that out easy, we assume that they're all the same, right? And when they're the same, when we think they're the same, then we naturally want to compare the only thing we can figure out to separate them, and that's price. That's where you're failing. You need to get out of that cycle. That's why the success habit for you today is to intentionally sell the product. And I've got a few tips for you to help you do that. And I believe that there's a reason why your product is different, okay? And the first thing that you need to understand, my first tip for you is you need to believe that there's a difference between your offerings. You got to believe it. And I actually had a president ask me just a few weeks ago, and he said, Derek, come on, they're all the same, right? Let's be honest. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, let's do this again. And I said, yeah, I don't believe they're the same. I just don't. Well, this is what I'll tell you. Okay, this is what I'll tell you. If you believe that all the products in your industry that you're selling are the same, then do you believe that there's one assembly line out there, one, maybe it's in China or Japan or Korea or wherever it is, one assembly line, and every single competitor, every single product in your industry that you're selling against comes off that same assembly line? The only thing that's different is at the end, one of them stamped with your company's logo, another one stamped with another competitor's, another stamped with another competitor's, and they all come across the same assembly line? Do you believe that? Really? We were probably saying, no, Derek, they're not. Yeah, I don't believe that. Which would be correct, because they don't come on the same assembly line, right? And so if they're not on the same assembly line, just by default, you've got to believe that there's differences, right? Look, commodity sales, a lot of it's in here, in your mind, okay? It's in your mind. And you think there's no difference, but that's where it starts. You got to get out of that. I mean, let's think about the biggest commodities out there right now in the world. How about food? Food's probably the biggest commodity. The food's all over the place, right? Food. We got to have food. But yet, there's high-end restaurants, right? There's Michelin star restaurants. There's fast food restaurants. There's different levels of restaurants. And if you go to another restaurant, do you think that the difference is the service? That's it. Oh, you know what? This restaurant is different because their waiters are better. Their waitresses are better. That's the reason why they're better. Do you think that's the case? Or maybe the food inside the restaurant have something to do with why it's different or why it's better. But how is that the case? We're talking about a commodity. There's a lot of food restaurants out there, right? Why is one more expensive than another? It's just food. Could it be different components, different expensive ingredients, different quality ingredients that are put into it? Could there be a different, there's a different way that's engineered, right? The way that it's made, right? The way that food is made is just better than somewhere else. Well, the answer is yes, right? Of course the answer is yes. But get it out of your head that a commodity sale means there's no difference in the products. Get that out of your head. There's a difference there. Okay, let's go different. Let's go to clothing. And it's funny, when I talked in my bootcamp class, this is what I brought up. I said, okay, let's look at clothing. Clothing's pretty common, right? We're just talking about fabric, right? Fabric being sewn together and people wear it. I mean, shouldn't they all cost the same? It's just fabric. But no, it doesn't, right? The biggest example I could probably give you that stands out the most, at least to me right now, is Lululemon. I mean, we're talking about yoga pants here, right? Yoga pants. That's it. Yoga pants. But you get one brand, Lululemon, fabric that's sewn together, that is just way better than the other brands out there. But it's all fabric, right? Why would it be any different? It's because there's something about the product itself. You don't buy Lululemon because the box that it's in is so nice and that's great. Or you don't buy Lululemon because as soon as you buy the workout pants, the yoga pants, you get all these extra exclusives that come with it. That's not the reason why you buy Lululemon. You buy it because you want the pants, right? Think about it. We can go to every single industry and have the same sort of answer. Why is yours an exception? Why is your product the product that everything's the same? Why? Well, the first tip that I have for you today, about your success habit in selling the product before you sell the add-ons is this. You've got to believe that there's a difference between your offerings. You got to believe, okay? That's the first step. Number two, the second tip that I have for you today is you need to know what those differences are. You got to know. It's important. It's critical in you being a good salesperson, for one. When you get out there and you're passionate about what you sell and you really believe that there's a difference that can impact your customer, that comes through, right? And your customer, you can't forget this. Your customer, if you're involved in a sales cycle right now and you're listening to this, you're involved in a sales cycle, your customer is trying to figure out which one's the best for their business. And there should just be one decision. And that's the best one, right? What's the right thing for them to do? What's the right choice for their business? The answer should be your product. Your job is to make this process easy for the customer to figure out. Because they're trying to compare the options. It's just like we look on Amazon and trying to figure it out. They're trying to do that. And people will pay for what's better. Just ask Lululemon. Just ask these Michelin star restaurants in your cities, right? People will pay for what's better. How are you helping them figure out why your product is better? One of the things that I love using that's used very commonly is a face-off. Use a face-off. Use a comparison table where you can show why it's just stupid simple on how your product is the best decision for them. Okay? So the first tip was you've got to believe that there's a difference, right? You got to believe. And part of that is you going on your own quest to figure that out. And I don't care if your president says, oh yeah, they're all the same. The only thing different is these other services that we add on. Give me a break. They're not made on the same assembly line. You've got to be on that quest to figure out what's different. The second tip, remember, was you need to know what those differences are. And part of that is you diving in and learning about it and really getting in there and asking. And, I had this one customer, I have this customer in the irrigation industry. And I gave this task to one of these salespeople. And I said, I need you to figure out why people like your product more than others out there, right? Like what separates it? What are the differences? And so he goes on this quest. And these guys are selling things that, they're selling drip irrigation. So, I mean, drip irrigation is it's very interesting when you think about all the orchards and just crops being grown all around the world. What you want if you're a farmer is you want all of your crops to look the same, and you want them all to grow really well, but you want them all to grow so they're all sellable and good product. And so the way that you do that is you try to give them the same amount of fertilizer and the same amount of water and the same amount of things to help them grow. And so, we got these vendors that are all selling things that help drip the water for these farms. And so I asked this guy, and I said, go on a quest. I want you to find this information out. So he spends the next week and he starts asking his customers, his own customers. He says, hey, I'm just curious, I really appreciate your business, but why did you go with us? What did you have before, and how what's the difference to you? Like, what did you notice? Like, why did you make the call to go with us? And so he asks a bunch of customers that for the week, and he ends up finding this one customer that 1 week, and it might have been like the second customer he asked, and this was a farmer, and the farmer said that he was using a competitive product, another product before that was obviously much less expensive than them. And it was fine, but then they decided to try out, this rep's product, as a test, and he said that the difference was night and day for him. And I ended up learning something in the process, and I'm gonna be messing up the stats here, so don't quote me on this. But this guy grew apples, and so he said that when an apple tree is first grown, the first amount of apples that the tree produce is very important, because what happens is the tree will always reproduce, every year the same amount of apples as that first production. And so he was saying how, on average he gets, and I'm throwing a number out here, don't quote me on this. On average, he gets 50 apples per tree, and he's got obviously tons of trees because he's a big farm. He said, but then he tried this. He tested out this other guy's product, the rep that I was working with, and he said he tested this product on the new apple trees, and he said the new apple trees, using this test product, produced 75 apples, so it was 50% more product, and because of that other product, they were going to be getting 50% more apples forever on those trees. I assume it forever. I don't think the trees ever have to be replaced, but again, I'm not an expert there. But you look at that. I mean, if you believe that, and the rep came back and he was so excited to tell me, he didn't know this. He'd been in the industry for 10 years. He says, Derek, I can't believe what I just learned. This one farmer used our stuff versus them, and they're getting 50% more production forever. And I said, yeah, how does that feel? He's like, it's amazing. I mean, the belief was there. And I said, okay, so do you think that customer would pay more for your product? Yes, he said. I said, do you think that customer believes there's a difference between your product and the other product that he had before? He goes, yes. I said, and now that you believe, it's going to be that much easier for you to sell it to the next account, right? So again, the first thing is you got to believe in your product. Second thing is you need to know what those differences are. Obviously, that's an example from someone I worked with recently, but those examples are everywhere. The third tip that I have for you is you need to make sure the customer understands those differences. It's your job. It's your job to make sure they believe in it too. And the way that they believe in it comes from how you get them emotionally attached to your product. And I'll talk about getting them emotionally attached later on. But I want you to think about this. We are all educated buyers today, right? People look things up. Everyone's got access to information at their fingertips. And no one really wants to be sold anymore. But salespeople, we can be great at presenting the right information for them so they can sell themselves. And sometimes the information, when we know why our product is better, when we know, and there's a reason why it is, believe me, or else your product wouldn't be around that often. It'd be gone. It would be out of business already, but it's not. So you're listening to this, you're selling something, you're selling a manufacturer's product. It exists because there's a reason why it's great. Well, your job is to share with the customer and get them to believe why it's great. Because when they believe that, right, when you purposefully make these three things happen and you get the customer to make sure they understand those differences, on any sale that you're in, you're going to find that the customer won't bust you on price. I mean, that apple orchard farmer is never going to bust them on their price. Ever. I mean, of course, they're going to try to make them honest. They're going to try to keep the price lower. But that farmer understands why he pays more for that product. And every customer my team would be involved with, they would understand why they should be expending more money for us and why they couldn't afford to use anyone but us. It's our job as salespeople to teach them about the product and to help them choose and compare the alternatives. And your customer is going to pay for the value that your product will give you, right? Every other vendor you're up against, every other competitor, you're going to find all they're selling is the add-ons. That's it. Oh, you should go with us because we have all these other services that we do. That's what they're saying, not you. Because the success habit today is all about selling the product first. That's what the customer's looking for anyway, right? Think of this of your product as a cake that they want to buy, right? A cake. I mean, they're literally wanting to buy a cake from you. If they say, hey, tell me about this cake, I'm trying to decide which cake to buy, and you don't talk about the cake, but you spend all your time talking about the box the cake comes in, or the return policy of the cake, or the side dishes they can get with the cake, then you're basically discounting the value of the cake itself. Even if you, instead of talking about the cake, you just talk about you and how you're going to make sure everyone gets the cake and this and that, and here's your cell phone number, they can call you. We're not talking about the cake. Those are all extras. Sell the cake. Make them realize that this is what they've been looking for. Make them realize that the right thing to do for their business, and the only thing they should be doing for their business, is your product. I mean, all this obviously comes from connecting the criteria during the discovery part of your sales cycle towards what this cake will do for them. But you're still selling the cake. Don't forget that. You're selling the cake. And when you sell the cake, and when you sell the product and become good at that, you believe it, you understand why, and you get the customer to see why, you're going to find that selling the price war and that selling that game is going to happen less and less, and you're going to be much happier with the results, just like your customers. That's it for today's episode. Thank you for allowing me to join you on your sales journey. See you next time. Hey, if you enjoy listening to this podcast and you're a B2B salesperson looking for extraordinary results, you have to check out my Outliers community. It's my monthly coaching program where we build the skills and habits needed to take your sales results far beyond your peers and out to where the highest income earners are in your industry, or as I call them, the outliers. Join me in the Outliers community at www.modernSalesTraining.com/outliers. Make sure you type modernsalesTraining.com/OUTLIERS. I'd love to have you join me in my Outliers community. See you there.